Good luck, Richard.
All right, welcome everybody to our live finals of the fall 2023 Scrabble Go Community Tournament. I will be your host here, Will Anderson, and we have a great matchup with two former finalists going at it here. It's Richard Spence versus Drew Morgan. Richard, a former, I think a two-time former winner, and Drew also a finalist where he went up against the legend Austin Shin and put up a great performance as a runner-up. So the players, this had to have been our most competitive community tournament yet. The players went through an incredible gauntlet of former champions and elite players, and they have made it into the finals where today they are vying for some really nice prizes, including this lovely 2023 champion tile, in addition to months of Scrabble Club subscription and some gems and tickets. Lots of other players made it deep into the tournament, quarterfinalists, semifinalists. We thank all of you for participating. And yeah, so we are live on all three platforms right now: Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And we welcome everybody who is here watching. And it's going to be a great match. So with that, I believe our players are standing by. And Drew, you should feel free to begin the match whenever you are ready. And I am going to mute myself so the players cannot hear, and let's get underway. All right. So, Drew going first. We're going to start his clock momentarily here. And he's got the first move of the game. Let me just make sure that I'm able to say hi to all of you on different platforms here. Not sure. I'm not seeing any chats yet on Twitch, but lots of people tuning in on Facebook. Appreciate everybody for being here. So Drew going first. And he has a nice mix of letters. I think I'm just going to make sure that he will be muted. There we go. So what to do with a rack like this? You've got nice bingo tiles. Amazingly, there actually is a very obscure 7-letter word here, but failing that, something like imp looks like a really nice idea for Drew. Looks like he is getting ready to do just that. So this looks like a really nice idea for him. He plays imp, submitting that word. And we like that for him because it keeps really nice. Let me make sure that I pause Richard's clock while we get him access to the game. So over to Richard now, and he is going to see the news that Drew has opened with imp. Not so good letters for bingoing here for Richard. He is going to be extremely tempted to put that J on his rack. You actually can place that in front of imp and make a hook of jimp. That is almost certainly, I could imagine, what Richard is thinking of playing here. He's thinking about Jill and jimp. Let me start his clock. There we go. Yep, and Richard noticed that. All right, so there it is. He sees that really nice hook of jimp, which I think means like a dandy or something like that, like looking really stylish. It's an archaic word, but that looks like a really good play here to get a bunch of points multiple directions with that J. Definitely like that for him here, and that is his play. So back over to Drew. And again, I think things are working good here. If there's any issue with audio, Twitch isn't letting me watch it there. Okay, interesting. I need to check on that, I guess. Also, it's okay if there's some issue with Twitch because we've got Facebook up and running. So that's perfectly good. All right, it looks like, I'm guessing, let me cut back over and show you what Drew is thinking about. It looks like he's just imagining you can put that out prefix on so many different things. He's trying to see, can you put it as an out lane? Unfortunately, not. So that is not going to be a valid word. He's got that S, which is potentially really useful to play and pluralize Jill, but you can see he's imagining, can I put it on Jimp? And the answer is no, it's an adjective. So Jimp, an adjective that only actually takes a Y hook. Jimpy is a valid word. When will we see the Ys come out of the bag, and will we see them get used in that useful spot? So yeah, let me just, I'm just trying to check on the Twitch situation and why it would not be live. I'm pretty sure it should be. At least I see it in my dashboard. Yeah, it's not sure what's preventing it from going live. Anyway, it looks like Drew is getting set to play a tone. That looks nice, using up that triple. The only drawback, of course, would be you keep that U, which is the worst of the vowels for certain tasks. It's very good for pairing with the Q, but the Q is pretty rare. There's only one Q in the set. So for that reason, the U really doesn't perform as well as those other vowels, but it doesn't look like there's a great way for him to use the U and reach that triple. I should note that it looks like he is getting set to play a tone. I should have hit his clock here, but that's okay. The clocks I am operating those, so it usually takes me a couple moves to get started. So, all right, it looks like Drew does end up playing a tone. There were, again, some obscure bingos available. And it looks like, oh man, back over to Richard. It looks like he is considering playing unclaw, which is a very reasonable try to remove the claws from, like declaw or something like that. But unfortunately, unclaw, not in our dictionary here. So he's going to have to come up with something different. Richard, not a very good rack. The two C's, the W and the U together are all a little bit awkward, and I think he's considering just playing cowl. This is a nice idea because the C and the W get a little bit of extra points from the double letter scores, and you would be entering your next turn without those two C's and without the U and the W together on your rack. Those are really the two main problems that you'd like to resolve if you're Richard here. So a tough situation over on Drew's rack too. As you can see, he kept that U on his rack after a tone, but he drew another U and a V. Routinely, I sometimes ask, you Scrabble players in the official community group, I ask you guys, what do you think of different letters? As you can see, Richard is still thinking, but if we just cut over to Drew, he has, I lost it there, but he had mauve, a very nice idea set up. Let's see if it gets blocked. It looks like mauve is going to be blocked by Richard's play of cowl, so that is too bad. And all right, I am going to start running clocks now, actually. So Drew's ideal play was just blocked. We've all been there in that situation where you have a move that you really, really like to play, but somehow your opponent plays in that spot and blocks it. That's Scrabble, right? We've all felt that many times. It's so frustrating when you have a really, really nice play ready to go down and your opponent just ends up blocking it. So it is back over to Drew. He's got UUV. That's just not a great combination to work with. The S is still there. You really like having that S if you're Drew. But on the other hand, Keep in mind that there isn't really a good S hook on the board. The reason for that, of course, is that jimp, as Drew tried earlier, is not actually a valid word. It's an adjective. So jimps is not going to be playable. So tricky situation for me. I would be considering playing something like uvula. Oops, he's got that camera zoom going, tricking me there. I think he's going to play vows. Yeah, that looks like a reasonable choice using that S, but of course, as I was saying, the S isn't quite as good as usual here because the S does not go in this spot. So using it to score a few extra points, getting rid of one of your U's and your V together seems like a pretty good idea. I do feel like if he were to see it, and he's trying, actually, Richard just tried jimps on his end just to make sure. And I do think that vows is a pretty reasonable play by Drew here just to get out from that UUV situation. Thanks to everybody on Facebook for being here. I'm not 100% sure if Twitch is active or not for whatever reason. But that is officially the play now for Drew, and it's going to be back over to Richard with Drew holding a narrow lead, and immediately he lines up a valid bingo of Aureate. Did not take him any time at all. The issue is, where will that word play on the board? And the answer is that it will play right here. It will fit right here on the board, going down. So this is a key turn. If Richard is able to block that spot, which it looks like he may be about to do by playing hub, this would be an amazing reversal as Drew sees this beautiful 7-letter word, but it looks like it may be about to be blocked here by a very clever play on Richard's part. And that is his choice here, hub, that has to be frustrating for Drew, who he absolutely lined up on his rack the word that he had. We seeing in chat, hello from Malaysia, nice game from Philippines, welcome, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate having you aboard to watch this finals. Again, this is a best of 3 match. So if either player loses game 1, there's still hope for them. They can win the next 2 games. And it looks like Drew is considering a clever idea with Aureate blocked. He has decided he's got 5 vowels and only 2 consonants. This is a really nice word and a nice play. A very helpful word to know if you aren't familiar. EAU. We've actually stolen that word from French in our English dictionary. So yeah, it's helpful. You get rid of 3 vowels without needing to use a consonant. We definitely use that word a lot, even in English language play. Hello to Janice and Allison. Nice to see you both. Allison, one of our competitors in the event. Thank you very much for signing up and competing. And yeah, this was we had so many amazing players competing in this event. Only 2 of them could make the finals. No surprise to see either Richard or Drew in the finals vying for the championship trophy here. And the very nice tile that you get if you're into those things. All right, so it looks like Richard is considering playing new, another really useful word. That is the word that he ends up playing, blocking off the new lane. So you can see that this spot was kind of threatening. SEL is a valid word, so you could end in an S, you could end in a D. DEL is also valid. So Richard had plays with his O that would have played here, potentially overlapping on down, but he has elected instead to block the more dangerous line. And with Fainter on his rack, you can see Drew is frustrated. He's got another bingo. He saw Aureate on the previous turn. Gets blocked. It would have played alongside Jimp. Now he has Fainter, And I don't think that had a home even before Richard's previous play, but Richard hasn't given him a new spot that he can use to play this 7-letter word. Hello from Belize. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much. A really worldwide flavor here. I'm not sure if what's happening on Twitch, something going wrong there for the Twitch folks. I do see a handful of viewers, but it doesn't seem to be loading. So I apologize for that. I'm not really sure if I need to do something to fix that. Maybe I'll just try to like unenable and re-enable. Anyway, I see that Drew is, oh, let me just make sure. Yeah, sorry, you guys aren't, I'm not able to help you, guide you through this if you can't see what Drew is considering. He is considering playing alongside Hub for some solid points. He has this F on his rack that you can see actually that if he ends up going ahead with this play, it's kind of nice because he sets up a place for his F to play really lucratively alongside here. So that could be something that he's thinking about. That F is going to hit. Oh, but he has drawn the Q, which immediately becomes very difficult to work with. All right, so it's back to Richard. I think Richard was very likely to have wanted to play something like Ohm and Oka in this spot, making cup. That play was now blocked, so he'll have to come up with something different. Let me just get this. Let me see. I don't know why the Twitch is not working. I'm just going to try to troubleshoot that. So you can see, just switching over to Drew's POV, you can actually see that he is considering what can he play using that F. FAE not valid in this lexicon. For those of you playing and watching from overseas, that word is valid in your lexicon. So yeah, he's going to be looking at that spot to play Fab. And in the meantime, Richard has an S and duplicated A's and N's that he's going to be thinking about where he can unload some of those letters. So this is a very cagey early game. No bingos yet from these two players who are definitely, I would be stunned if things didn't open up here at some point and see a few more longer words hitting the board. I fully expect that to come at any moment. Yeah, it's tough. There's not a lot of, you can see on this board, there are no triple word scores open. Of course, that's where your mind goes. Where can I reach a triple word score, right? They're all just out of reach. The only one that's even theoretically playable is this one, and you would need a really long word, a bingo, to make it all the way. So, you know, that's not easy to do. So where to play? I would certainly be looking, if I were Richard, at this spot to try to play something with cab, but it might not really be possible. So it looks like maybe nab is going to be his choice. This makes sense to me. He's got 2 N's and 2 A's, and he's unloaded one of each and scored 16 points, which is pretty solid. So back over now to Drew. What's he going to do? He still has, you can see, he still has a very nice place to play off that F and foam for 36. It doesn't use up that Q, but it does score very well. Unless he's able to find a good spot with that Q, that could be one of his better options here. Unfortunately, again, Richard has managed to block off. Had Richard not played in this spot right here, Drew would have been able to play, this is another great word for you guys to learn, would have been able to play fakir in this spot. Hold on. He's moving across the board. Sorry about the positioning of that. Anyway, he would have been able to play FAQIR in this spot had Richard not blocked it. So that would have been a big play to see. He doesn't have that available. I do think he's going to end up playing foam again on this turn. Akudo says hello from Nigeria. Appreciate that. Phoenix says tough board. It absolutely is. There's really not a ton going on. Drew is considering Omen, but it only scores 15 points compared to the 36 points that you would get with foam. And yeah, does this open a triple word score? It does, but it scores really, really well while he's at it. It scores so well. And against a player of Richard's caliber, I do think that you have to take some risks, right? You have to go for it. And you can see Drew draws that first blank. That could loom large. He's first got to deal with that Q. But once he does, he's got that blank waiting for him, and maybe he'll be able to get a bingo down in short order after that. It's not really clear to me where that Q goes. He may be forced, Drew may be forced to play QAT through this A to get rid of it for a small score, and then he may hope to use his blank and the rest of his really nice letters to play something longer through that E of a tone. So meanwhile, over to Richard again. He's now got an open triple. This is where his eye is drawn. He is almost certainly going to be playing something through this M. The only question is, can he get as many of his high-scoring letters as possible? He's got a C. He's got a Y. He's going to really be trying to use both of those letters and anything else that he can along with it. I'm not really seeing a great option that allows him to do that. He may be forced to play something like money here, or if he's really clever, he could play something like anomy in this spot, ANOMY. There could be something better that I'm not seeing as well. So yeah, we don't need these comments. In the Facebook. All right. So, tricky. I should also note that if Richard has the risk tolerance to leave this M completely open, he will have nice scoring plays with a far in this spot too. So something with AY, just K in this spot, will score quite well and leave him with very good bingo tiles. So if he can't find anything that he likes through that M, he may be tempted to go for that other scoring spot. And that's going to leave a really difficult choice for Drew on his next turn. Ooh, okay, here's a move. Oops, sorry. Let me show you what Richard is thinking. Richard is considering and ends up playing Yeoman. Very nice idea. So Yeoman for a good score, 33. That's probably better than some of the other options that I proposed for him here. Scores quite well. And it doesn't give anything really interesting back to Drew to do much with his Q. But I do think that I'm actually now wondering if from Richard's point of view, a play like money in this spot going across would have been interesting to leave your A for next turn. It's kind of nice to save the A here if you want to get another scoring play on the next turn. That could be a tiny advantage over money versus Yeoman, but then again, Yeoman scores 3 more points, which is a lot of points. That's a bunch of extra points to get. So very nuanced decisions here. Richard, you can see, has drawn another S. He had one on his previous turn, but he's drawn a second one. Unfortunately, to go with it, he's drawn 2 O's and a C and a G. Well, he had the C, but he's drawn a G to go with it. So both players haven't connected yet on those bingos. And believe me, when they have them, you're going to see them come down. It is very much a cagey game. Nadine asks, how do you take part in this? So, what we try to do is to post, we try to have a sign up that takes place in the game. There's a pop up that takes place in Scrabble Go that encourages you to sign up, as well as a sign up form that goes out on our Facebook page. So, we try to do these quarterly. And we're always thinking about ways that we can improve that process and reach more players. So I would say if you have a suggestion for how we can best keep you all up to date when these tournaments are running, go head on over to the community group, the Scrabble Go official community group, and I'm probably in the next few days I'm going to make a post where I ask you all for some feedback on how you think we can do even better with these events. So anyway, Drew he's got this cue. It's burning a hole in his rack. He would love to get rid of it. To my eye, there's really only the one spot that makes sense to get rid of it here if he wants to hold on to his blank, and it would be this super useful word of cat. We've used that word a lot. If you play a lot of Scrabble, you're very likely to have seen that word before. So yeah, we'll see if he spots it, or maybe he will elect to go for more points somewhere else. There's definitely ways that he can try to score a little bit better. He can just play something like EH under here and score a little more. It's a tricky move for sure. This is a position where the more confident you are in your ability to find 7 and 8 letter bingos from your rack, that will guide your decision making here. If you feel like that's a talent of yours, that you are strong, that's a strength of yours, then maybe playing off that cue as quickly as you can will start to be of the utmost importance. Instead, Drew is going to be considering, sorry, I forgot to show you, he's considering playing THO for many more points. And that is what he ends up doing. And back over to Richard. And with those two S's, it looks like Richard is very quickly going to play Cogs and News there for 19 points, getting rid of one of the two O's, getting rid of one of the two S's to score a little extra. And the nice thing about it is because he's placing that C out in open space, it's impossible for Drew to overlap and go down to the triple. So it's a very, very defensive play. I should note that in this lexicon, there is no hook here. You cannot put an S on top of that. Some of you players from around the world might be saying, oh, he's also set up a great place to play his S. Not in this lexicon. It's just a very good defensive play. So back over to Drew. He is looking around for spots to use his stronger tiles. Zoa looks like a good option for 24. Again, the Q, this is a really good case for why is that Q so difficult? Why do we at this high level of play really get annoyed by that Q? And the answer, as we see Drew play Zoa, the answer is that it really just takes up space on your rack. I know it's worth that 10-point value, but he's not. It's such a challenge to use that really it just kind of sits there like an albatross on your rack. So it really does bog you down sometimes, certainly on boards like this, which are really tight. This board is so tight, you can see that there's all of these right angles here that are cutting off space on the board. All of this, basically this whole zone is extremely difficult to access on this board. So without an opening play, it's going to be very, very restricted. Captions are blocking the view of the board. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I think their printed commentary covers it all. Not sure if that is something that can be turned off. I know that there is a closed captioning option for Facebook video that maybe if you're able to locate that and turn it off, it will help to create more view. I'm sorry to hear that the view of the board is obstructed. Let me also just try, I want to turn Twitch back on and see if something went wrong with it, with my restream. I guess I should have tested this before. Oh, there we go. It's back on Twitch. So hopefully I'll be able to see you all on that platform as well. Okay, so it is Richard's turn. This is a very cagey game. You guys, a couple of you in the chat have said how cagey of a game this is, and it really is. Let me see. I think I should be all right here. Hold on. Just trying to make sure everything is going according to plan everywhere. All right, so I wish it would disable this video here. Oh, that's probably why. Okay, I'm figuring it out. All right, so Richard has made his move. Sorry, as I troubleshoot some stuff on this end. I think we are, I hope, up on Twitch again. But all right, it looks like Drew is considering burning his blank just to get rid of this queue. And oddly, normally you would hate to do this, but in his case here, I think there is a good reason to do it because this board is so constricted. That blank isn't nearly as valuable as usual, and that is going to be his play. So this makes some sense to me because with that closed board making it so difficult to play bingos, the blank isn't quite as useful as it is normally. And the queue is just completely bogging down Drew's rack turn after turn. So getting rid of it there, even at a cost of that incredibly valuable blank, it does make some sense to me, although I hate to part with that important tile here for sure. All right. Now, Richard, facing a deficit, is considering playing needy here, a very nice play, a plural of needus, and that is going to be his play. And this is definitely a risk to open the board like this, but I think what he's hoping is, oh, and look at that. He sees yeomanries. That is amazing. So you can see from Richard's POV, and Drew is very quickly likely to play Eerie here, which makes a lot of sense. But Richard is going to respond with an amazing extension play after this play. So Eerie looks like it makes a ton of sense from Drew's point of view, holding 6 vowels and only 1 consonant. But now the question is, in Richard's mind, he's got to at least think, do I have a bingo to this spot here where he can put an S? Unfortunately, he doesn't have one in this lexicon. So I think he's going to default to his consolation prize of yeomanries, which is an absolutely beautiful play on his part for 45 points, which is on this board, things being so constricted. I think he's just thinking to himself for a brief moment, do I have anything? Am I missing anything? No, he isn't. He's going to play yeomanries, which is a beautiful, beautiful extension play on his part. That is a phenomenal play. All right. Yes, it looks like Twitch is working. I'm glad to hear that. So I'm going to do my best to pay attention to all the different chats. YouTube, Twitch, and actually there are a couple tumultuous and a couple others of you out there. Ooh, okay. I can aggregate the ooh, what happened here? Okay, good. We're all good. No issues. So, yeah, that was a really impressive play for sure by Richard Spence. To extend yeoman to yeomanries is a really high level play, which we love to see. So let's go for it here and see what Drew has. He's got an X. He's definitely tempted to hit this spot, but unfortunately, he doesn't have, there's really no way. Unfortunately, this is not a valid word in this lexicon, so he cannot hammer that spot with the X. He's going to have to come up with a different approach. Oh, this is interesting. He's thinking about playing broke, which this has the advantage for him of making a really nice spot to play his X. Maybe he'll draw an I or U to play a two-letter word. Problem is, Richard is going to immediately look at that spot and try to play a good play of his own there, potentially with his F scoring a lot of points. So that is a big risk if that is the direction that Drew looks to go here. So it's tough. There's not a lot of space to work with. But now, after the two-turn sequence of needy and eerie, there's much more space now. There's at least a line here where you could play a seven-letter word ending in S. I'm also checking. It looks like there is one P left. The P could go in this spot and score a lot of points, unless I'm missing it. So this is a tricky situation for sure. Hey, Dustin, nice to see you out on Twitch there. Just trying to manage all the different platforms. Okay, so instead of playing broke, Drew opts to play just bro. He's not willing to take on that risk of playing the extra letters, and you can see Richard taking a look at the tile bag just to make absolutely sure. Amazingly, we're not seeing any bingos yet, but we do see a 10-letter word on the board here in yeomanries. That is not something you see every day by any means. So very, very impressive to see a 10-letter word be played. So we'll find out what Richard is going to do from here. It's a very different game if Drew plays broke and allows him to score 40 or 50 points to the triple. So a good option there by Drew to not expose himself to such a heavy counterplay. And it makes Richard's next turn a little bit tougher. He's set FYTTE fit on his rack. Looks like he's getting ready to play that alongside Erie, which looks like a solid move. I'm really curious to see if Drew will spot the word fox-like on his next turn. If Richard does indeed end up playing this word, fox-like, for a very good score, is going to come down. So Richard takes a narrow lead, doesn't draw very good tiles. It's back over to Drew. Drew, at a minimum, has a nice place to play his X in two directions right here. So that, at minimum, is useful. But I'm so curious. He can play, if he's able to think about playing off this F, fox-like. I feel like that's a word you would consider trying. Let me cut to his POV. But he is potentially just going to go with the XI play, which is perfectly reasonable here. That's a lot of points. At this score, it's pretty meaningful, and there's not a ton of time left in the game. You see, we are using these kind of improvised timers as well. And there's that second blank, too. So that second blank could be huge. And let me cut back. It looks like Richard is very quickly considering playing Gowd, which would get rid of all of his weakest consonants, the W, the G, and leaving his strongest. And now he's drawn diverts on his rack. So depending on what Drew plays, he's got to be careful. Not that he has any way of knowing this, of course, but if, for example, a play in up, and that's not where Drew's getting set to play. It looks like he's getting ready to play Oak, which is going to score 26 in that upper corner. This would be a good play, giving him a solid lead, but of course, there are only 3 tiles left in the bag. So you can see Richard is checking he's checking his tiles, but Oak is the play that Drew settles on, and we are headed to a very, very tricky endgame here for sure, with not a lot of time to suss out what's going on. So you can see Richard is taking a look at those tiles, and he's saying to himself, oh man, what do I do here? I would say that with such nice tiles, even though Drew has really balanced vowels and consonants with a blank, it's going to be difficult to actually play a bingo here because there's no good spots to play a 7-letter word. Rex doesn't take any hooks. You could play an 8 starting an O. It's not the easiest to find a word like that. So this is a situation where the bag is empty. Both players can use the tile bag tool to know exactly what your opponent has. Richard has a little bit of an advantage because he can plan out his next 2 turns as long as he feels satisfied that Drew does not have a bingo. That's the tricky thing of it. In Richard's shoes, he's just saying, okay, as long as Drew does not have a bingo that will end the game immediately, I could potentially play a 2-turn sequence that will allow me to win this game. Incredibly complicated. It's difficult to imagine. Austin on Twitch says Drew has a bingo with the O. I wasn't even looking that hard. Let's see if I can spot it real quick. Not yet. Well, what the heck could it be? Anyway, I don't see it yet. Deafening Fish on Twitch says, love the new Chi video. And yes, Chi is on the board. The P. Okay, that is incredibly obscure. I see it now with that hint for Dustin. Yeah, okay, that would be pretty amazing. The word that you guys are suggesting is oil paper. I have no idea how I didn't even see that until you guys gave me the hint. So this is just really tough. If you're Richard, you have to do your best to say, what does my opponent have? Does he have a playable bingo? So you are kind of doing all the work that your opponent is doing and then your own. So you can see, switching over to Drew's POV, he is, I guess you can't see it with that camera zoom on. I'll figure that out between games. Yeah, this is tough. I think if I were Richard, I would feel a little bit terrified to do too much here. Because you just don't know unless you are incredibly solid on your words, you can't know for sure if your opponent has something ready to go down from this O. You also might get hit with something down here. And it looks like he's going to play vet. This has some merit to it. The nice thing about it is it scores well. I'm not 100% sure what the follow-up move would be after that, though. this is really brutally complicated, of course. He may just end up playing it because there's only so much time. I don't really have a procedure in place to assess time penalties here. I think as long as the players are playing with kind of roughly, reasonable speed, I don't feel like I want to assess a time penalty here. But Richard is definitely in need of just making a decision here soon. It looks like he's going to play vet, leaving him with the nice RIDS, and he is going to play it. I'm going to make sure that we give him every ability to get his next move in. But this creates, obviously, another extremely difficult scenario for Drew. Drew has to think, all right, and you can see he is looking at the tiles, the unseen tiles that Richard still has. Now he has to see, can I come up with, if I can't play a bingo, he's got to try to find as high scoring of a play as he can to this V. That seems like his best way of scoring points here, but also he has to do his best not to give an easy place for Richard to end the game on his next move as well. There is so much going on here. I'm so sorry if I'm not explaining it adequately for you all out there. So yeah. I'm sorry for the camera view that I'll have after the game. I'll try to make sure that we have the camera zoom turned off. I'm not sure how to show this to you guys that well. It looks like he's getting ready to play Vipers. Yeah, so I know it's mushing the board a little bit temporarily, but he's thinking about Vipers, whether that will get the job done for him. I'm not 100% sure if that will, but it looks pretty good. I don't see an obvious place yet for Richard to play his final 4 tiles. Eerier, nothing fits in that spot. Thanks, Ellie. I appreciate that. Again, I noted it earlier, as it looks like Vipers is going to be the play here, as I'll just show you. This is going to come right down to it. Oh, what's happening here? Viral. Is he going to try to play Viraler? Yeah, I think Vipers actually is going to be a pretty good choice, unless I'm missing something. I don't really see a great way for Richard to end the game here. So Vipers it is. Let me just pause these clocks for just a moment. And it goes back to Richard with Drew up by a pretty solid number, 22 points. I think it's pretty much required that Richard end the game here with this move if he's going to win, and I don't see how he's going to do that. So I'm just waiting to start his clock. Thank you very much for the kind words there on Facebook. I appreciate it. So, all right. I feel like I have no choice but to start Richard's clock here. Oops. And let me show you. He's considering id. This it doesn't feel like there's too much else he can do here. And yeah, he's going to have to ultimately just make this move. If he doesn't see, and he is going to play it, I think he's going to hit submit. Yeah, he does. And I'll pause Drew's clock. So this is going to be an incredibly close match that ends in favor of Drew Morgan. Amazing. And it looks like he's going to play just AL. He can play practically anything. And wow, that is a super close back and forth battle, cagey battle. I'm gonna unmute myself briefly on the Zoom call. What a cagey battle between the two of you. Drew, I have a quick note for you, which is if you are able to... Oh, never mind. The clocks are going to get reset anyway. They did a funny sound. But Drew, when the next game begins, if you're able to go into the lower left menu and turn off camera zoom, that will help us a lot because it zooms in on the board. All right, he's got it. Okay, so with that, we're not going to take a break. We're going to jump right into round 2, and Richard is going to go first. And anytime you're ready, Richard, let's get game 2 underway. So, wow, that was quite a game. The match is now Drew leads 1-0. And again, he's on the precipice. It's a best of 3 match. So Drew with the first win, an unbelievably tight, contested battle. No bingos were played in the game, if I'm not mistaken. And that's surprising. I don't feel like with players like this, you would definitely expect a bingo or two to go down, but things were pretty closed off from the get-go in that game. Let's see if game 2 proceeds in the same way. All right. So Richard to go first in game 2. Drew went first in game 1. And we'll have to, I think the final score of that game was within a handful of points. So if this game is even like a 10-point victory or something for Richard, he'll go first in game 3. And let me just show you guys, I apologize, that he's getting ready to play Rouge. That looks like a reasonable choice for him. I'm going to pause. Okay, looks like the game is, Drew has gotten the game, so we'll start his clock again. Ellie says, when I start a game with too many vowels, I always tile swap. Yep, that is a good time. The beginning of the game in Scrabble is a good time to tile swap. It's definitely, if you have one of those really heavy 6, even 5 vowel racks to start the game, if you don't have anything really useful, it's a good time to swap because placing a word on the board to start the game actually does help your opponent. Every letter you play tends to increase your opponent's chances of being able to play through it to form a bingo at really high levels of play. If you're first starting out, the center star being a double word score is quite useful. So anyway, exchanging to start the game, definitely a good idea. Just want to note, really advanced play on Richard's part. He could have played Rogue in the same spot. Why play Rouge, right? Imagine in the same spot that Rogue was played with this G and U. That would have placed a vowel in this, adjacent to this spot. So every now and then you're going to regret that if your opponent has a Q or if your opponent has an X. You could easily regret that much more if you play Rogue instead of Rouge, to say nothing about the fact that you could play Brogue or Drogue as a hook. So Richard making a very subtle choice, but a clever one nonetheless. Drew considering playing Courting here for 13. The board would be very open with lots of letters to play longer words through, but that C out in space, that is going to be his play. The C out in space, again, as we saw in the last game after Richard's play of Cogs, it really restricts access to the triple when you're playing alongside that C. You just can't do it in this lexicon. So it's actually as open as the board looks with all these nice tiles to play through. It's not that easy to find a spot to score. This is the best spot to place a consonant to score, but Richard doesn't have a letter that works well in that spot. His J is going to be the letter that he really wants to get rid of here. he could play something like gin. The problem with that, you do get the triple J, but you would use up 2 of your 3 consonants and be leaving yourself with 4 vowels. So I do think that maybe a better option is G. This is a word you'll see a lot. Okay, that is what he's about to play. Literally, as I was thinking about it, this looks great. You get your J in the good spot. You use 2 vowels along with it. This is a really, really helpful word to learn. Last game, we saw Drew play EAU for O. That's a helpful word to learn. And this is another one. To use your J with 3 vowels in one go is a very, very helpful word. You see it a lot. You do see it a lot if you play enough Scrabble. So back over to Drew now. Drew was considering on his move of playing Yonic, Y-O-N-I-C. He had that laid down through the O. Now he has a place to play that word here, which looks like, or below. Either on top or below is going to score a very similar number of points. And either one is going to be nice again because that C is going to prevent overlaps going across if he plays Yannick here. So both players have a very good sense of denying opponent scoring plays. I would say, though, that there still is a nice little spot here for a 3-letter word to go on top, but it's not, it's not a lock that your opponent has a great play there. So 25 points is what Drew is considering. I like this play a lot for him. This makes a lot of sense. We'll see if he ends up deciding on this. He might, I was going to say, he might be looking at that nice spot that I just alluded to and realizing that there really isn't anything like that at all playing underneath. And you get an extra point. Very good job by Drew there. That was a nice little modification. He gets an extra point, which you might not think because, hey, I was getting a double word score there and I'm not for this play underneath. And whoa, look at that. Drew with a very, very nice set of tiles, and there is no way he had his tiles lined up immediately to play Zippiest at minimum. I think he's going to at least think to try to play Zippiest through that I, and it's going to be tough to imagine blocking that. Couple people, Disgruntled Vet, he's got Spritzer in 2 spots, even better. Oh, man, nice play here by Richard. He plays Voodoo with this weird alternate spelling, and Richard draws the second blank. Okay, we did not see a bingo in game 1, but we are about to see some fireworks here for sure. I would be very surprised to not see Drew, and he's putting it down. Zippiest. This, if he doesn't know this is a word, he's going to be delighted when he sees the good news that it is a 92-point bomb of a bingo that's going to put him out in front. And there it is. He makes that play. But Richard is going to respond immediately back. I just want to point out how clever his play of Voodoo was on the previous turn. The reason that was such a good play is that Richard left INS on his rack, and this word actually takes an N hook of Vodun. He can place an N in this spot. So as long as he can find a word with an N hooking onto here, which it looks like he already has found, an interesting one, Uranism, that's going to place the M in a really, really good spot as well and score extremely well, 82 points. So this game is immediately getting some fireworks compared to last game. And that's one of the great things about Scrabble is that certainly at this level, if you're a new player, games might kind of feel mostly the same, but once you start to add to your skill level and appreciate all the different ways that you can play the game, playing bingos, playing defensive plays, games unfold in all these beautiful different ways. And I really feel like we're seeing that with these first 2 games right here. First game, neither player bingoed, barely a 10-point margin. And this game already, you can see both players bingoing for over 80 points. And it's back over to Drew. Let me make sure. Oh, look at this. Nice play. He is getting ready to play Menace through the sea for 35. That is a tremendous play on his part. The beauty of this play is that, of course, you're going to be looking at that Z. Do I have a way to play Za in this spot? But he has really found a wonderful overlapping play that scores in the mid-30s, 35 points. That's a really, really nice play by Drew here. And immediately, Richard is going to play what looks like his best play, 7 consonants on Richard's rack. He looks to the U to dump 4 of them, and by placing that W on the triple letter score, he too gets 30 points with a very difficult rack. So very nice plays being exchanged by both players here. And once again, Drew has drawn that cue, and let's see. I know that the annoyance of last game was, I'm sure he felt that cue to be an annoyance. He ended up playing his cue with a blank. Here, he's thinking about just playing 5, which actually looks quite reasonable to me, even if you're not going to play the cue, because the only really good place to play the cue would be right here. And if Richard has an I, you will regret playing in that spot. Of course, we can see that Richard doesn't have an I, and that he would have had very little recourse to handle that spot on Drew's part. So had Drew played Chi in this spot with an I in reserve on his rack, he would be threatening very big plays here right now. But that level of aggression isn't really necessary. And he can still play Chi next turn if he's really in a bind. So 5 scoring 35 points is a perfectly justified play on Drew's part. Yeah, this is really, Janice says, this is amazing. I totally agree. This is really, really impressive. The players are treating us to a great performance here. I'm quite impressed. I'm really curious to see next turn if Drew, you can see he has that P. If he decides on playing something like Lop, setting up his S to go down, that would be really aggressive, but also a play in that spot is going to score so well. So I'm really curious to see what Drew will do next turn. But meanwhile, it is Richard's turn now. And he's going to play there. That makes a lot of sense. So Richard has decided that even without an S, he's going to play in this valuable spot, scoring almost 30 points. And he has drawn the level up. The level up. It's no big deal. He's going to have to open some chests there, folks, but he'll get there. So Drew now has that spot that I proposed for him has been blocked, so he can't play that anymore. But he has an S, and if he wants to play something with Zags, he could do so, scoring pretty nicely. But again, that Q, right? You just hope that he can draw some aid to go along with that Q at some point, because just as it did last game, it was tough to get off his rack, and this time both of the blanks are gone. So there's no blank coming to save him, and if it's not a U coming to save him, which it doesn't look like it's likely, right? Look at the U's. There's only one more U coming. So I do worry a little bit about that Q and Drew's ability to get it off the rack at some point. He does have a spot right here. You could always just dump Chi here, and maybe he'll get some better stuff to go with it as he's getting ready to play Slop for 32. If I'm Drew, I'm thinking about this play of Teg, and I am definitely a little bit concerned. A player like Richard, who is so defensive, this does look like a play that I would love to make if I had an S. Of course, Richard does have an S, but he drew it. He drew it after his play, so he wasn't setting it up. He just happened to draw it. But either way, from Drew's POV, blocking the spot now makes a lot of sense. And it blocked Teledu's. Oh my gosh. Look, you can see Richard has set his letters up that he had a 7-letter play that fit making pet. And Drew has blocked it here. A very obscure 7-letter word. I think this is an animal. Oh, and look at this. Over to Drew. He sees Fakir is playable for him. So is that spot going to stay open? He's gotten the help that he needs to play off that cue in a productive way. Is Richard going to block it, or is that spot going to stay open? It's a huge swing. It'll be a huge swing. Richard is going to be sorely tempted to play in this spot, I think. Oh, it looks like he spots his bingos. I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice that. Oh man, this is a big swing. So, Lustered, very, very nice play, but oh, sorry, I had Drew's clock running. I didn't switch back to Richard, so we'll give Drew a minute or two. Okay, this play is a great bingo by Richard, first of all, but not only does Drew he's got an F, right? If he's able to come up with a play that ends in F, that reaches the triple, it will score enormously, but also Richard draws the B. So if he's able to play something ending in B, he's going to hit that extremely hard as well. The problem for Drew is that with that Q on his rack, he's going to be looking here. He's going to be looking to play this through this U, almost for sure. He has plenty of things that play through there. He could play, so the word that he had placed on the board of Fakir, that actually does still play through this U if he wants to. But if he keeps the F, he could draw into a big play with Flustered. All he has to do is come up with a 4-letter word, or I guess a 5-letter word, that has the F in just the right spot. And he's got to beat Richard to that spot as well, because Richard has a B that he's going to be trying to play there. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. I should also note that Richard isn't going to play in that spot immediately because he drew an H, which is going to play over here for a huge score. So Richard is getting ready to play, in the upper right, making S for an absolutely huge score, at which point, potentially, if Drew is able to see this, now this isn't a gimme. It's not a gimme to think of the F here. I thought of it quickly, but then again, I didn't think of Lustered as a bingo. I didn't see the nice play that you guys spotted for him last game, Oil Paper. It's not a lock that Drew will see this F spot, but I do think he's going to think of it. And if he does, and if he draws a 4-letter word, the game is going to be pretty close to even after the next couple of plays from both players. So I am very, very intrigued to see how this plays out from here. All right. I think I'm going to start Drew's clock again just because it was a couple minutes that I forgot. And I did that. I should have been running Richards, but both players are doing okay on time. All right. So it looks like Drew has decided that maybe QUAI, Quay, or key, I guess. I know that you're supposed to pronounce QUEY, a key, on the key. But, he's agonizing over this one. There's a lot going on this board, and he is trailing by 40 points, so it is kind of critical. Remember that the score of the match is 1-0, so Drew can lose this game, and it will force a deciding game 3. This is not a must-win, and there you have it. He has settled on playing his cue there. I fully expect Richard to play extremely fast, and he's going to be thrilled because this play, there it is, this play, oh man, okay, so he's playing Aya, even better. But you can see, look at Drew. Drew has already spotted his big play. So Drew nodding his head as if to say, I'll run Richard's clock a little longer because I think Drew is about to play his next move really fast. This answers my question of has he seen it? And it does even more than that. It sets him up to play his X in a good spot next turn if he draws a vowel. So there is a ton going on here. If Drew just draws any of A, E, or O, and he has, you can see it there, he will have a nice spot for his X as well. And oh man, I forgot, he even has this spot. He's drawn the A that he needs to play lax. It's even better. It's even better than I thought. He needed exactly that letter, the A, if he was going to play in this spot for a huge score. That's a great, great play. What can you say? Really, really impressive. Aya, hey, Axer Typo, yes, I agree that Aya is odd. I would have expected to see Yeah be played. He might have had a reason for that I'm not sure of, but either way, both of those plays very, very strong in score. So now Richard is sitting on a tough rack. He didn't really have a great place. He didn't have a word with blustered there. His draw wasn't very good. So now he's going to have to really buckle down. I don't know exactly where he should play here. He's got so many vowels now. The triplicated E's and the duplicated I's make it very tough. So yeah, I wonder if he's just going to go for the maximum score. This scores 32 points, which is very good. It leaves EI, but if you have a reasonable expectation of drawing consonants, maybe you can withstand it. So back over to Drew, I would see, yeah, lax is going to come down very fast for a very nice score. It's going to put him up by a decent amount, and Richard is going to have a tough time scoring too many points on his next move. So I do expect to see lax, there it is, lax goes down. Now a 13-point lead for Drew heading into the latter stages of this game. Richard is consulting his tile tracking. There you see it. It looks like a slight consonant overload here. 9 consonants to only 4 vowels. So that's nice. If you're Richard, you're saying to yourself, all right, well, I have too many vowels, but at least I can expect to get some consonants. Whereas in Drew's case, he's got a good mix of vowels and consonants, but they are all low point tiles. So it may be difficult for him to score very well. I have no idea how things are going. Once again, incredibly close game. Not terribly surprised to see it, but you never know with Scrabble. Sometimes Scrabble doesn't really cooperate. 2 players that are very evenly matched, the tiles can basically decide things for you. And in this case, we have not had that happen. Both players have had ample opportunity to show their skill and give us really, really close, 2 really close games. If I had to guess, I would say that down 13 points with the ability to score and with Drew not having any high point tiles of his own, I actually think Richard's chances are pretty good here if he's able to draw some of those higher scoring letters from the bag on his next turn. I think he's got good chances here. Not sure what he's going to look to do. Playing through this M is going to be very tempting. It's the only really realistically hittable triple word score. And he is considering playing amide in this spot. Seems reasonable. He puts it on the board. He's going to think a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, you're not likely to get too many other better scoring plays on this board than playing to the triple through that M. And he needs every point he can get, down 13 points here. So once again, thank you to everybody. I think I'm seeing everyone on all the platforms right now. A bunch of you on Twitch. Nice to see all of our Twitch regulars awake at this at noon Eastern time. Yeah, Axer Typo on Twitch points out that just playing Quail and Lav for Drew, I should say, is going to be pretty strong. And I definitely agree with that. That's a good number of points. It gets rid of one of the two A's on Drew's rack. He has to see the spot, which I feel like he's shown pretty impressive vision, but it's not an obvious spot to look. So it does look like Richard's going to play Amide for 24. So now the onus is on Drew. He's going to be down by 11. And let's see. What will he do here? There are 2 tiles in the bag. So certainly he's first going to look at that E of Amide and say to himself, do I have something long through that E? With all these nice low point tiles, when you have that mix of 1 point tiles, you're going to be often thinking to yourself, do I have a bingo with those tiles? And once you're satisfied that you don't, you have to move on to other stuff. So instead of Quail, it looks like Drew may be considering playing 1A and 1R instead to leave a more balanced leave. The problem with that is with only 2 tiles left in the bag, Drew would be setting Richard up to plan his endgame a little bit better. So I wonder if he's going to go with something a little, he's considering playing ear. I think in his shoes, if I had some play that used up as many letters off of my rack as I could while also scoring decently, I would be considering it here. I don't know if there is such a play, though. So in the absence of that, it does feel like maybe Quail and Lav, which scores quite well, right? 4, 6, 10, 11, 24 points. So Drew would go up by 13 going into the end game. I still feel like Richard would have a good chance to sneak past him in the end game if that's his choice, especially with that W. Richard has the W. Sometimes we don't like to see the W. All right, Drew decides on playing AR. He plays AR, and now we are into the end game. Only a 2-point lead for Drew. He does draw the B and the K, that's definitely something he's happy to see. There are going to be plays with something like break here is going to score a lot of points for Drew that would need to be addressed. So Richard needs to, I think Richard should have the advantage here, but he has to find a way both, if he can, to try to block some of those bigger plays that Drew might have. Let me switch it back to Richard's POV. Yeah, this is not going to be the simplest endgame again. I'm trying to see if he has, I don't think he has good plays that start with TW here. That would be really nice, but I don't believe a play like that exists. So it's tough. This is a tough one. Break next to Zippy. Yeah, that's it, right. So this is not easy for Richard. I don't know. My instinct is that he should be able to come up with a 2-turn sequence somehow that blocks this area of the board that Drew is going to be looking to score a lot of points at. But what is the play that does that? I'm still looking for it. Yeah, over to Drew. He spots it. 34 points for break. He places it on the board, so he's definitely aware of it. Definitely aware of it. I wonder if I can actually, I'm going to try something real quick. Maybe I can do this to be able to show like both players at once. This would be tricky. Let's see if I can do this. Well, the cameras are going to be messed up, of course. But I just want to like be able to show you both. The cameras are a little screwy. I might be able to fix that real quick. There we go. Okay. So this is my attempt to show you like what both of them are thinking when they have words placed on the board. Anyway, that's not the case right now. But if it is, I'll see if I can cut back to that screen and have it be really snazzy. Yeah, I should have the racks on there too, of course. The racks should be on there if I go to that screen. We'll see. Oh man, this is a brutal end game, but again, my instinct is that Richard should be able to find a way here, but it's not going to be easy. I think the biggest factor is that once you block this nice spot to play break, what is the next best play that Drew has, right? So Drew put KA on the board earlier. So this is still pretty good for Drew, but I think it should be beatable for Richard if he blocks this spot and forces Drew into playing Ka up there. So anyway, oh, very nice. Look at that. He sees a beautiful play, Luwei, that I think this is a currency word. And this is a really next level play. This is going to almost certainly get the job done, but he has to make absolutely sure that he has two places to play his final two letters of TTI. And I think the answer is that he for sure does. He can play TIT right here, or he can play TOIT through here, among other things that I might be missing. Well, he has plays here. So this is really, really nice. What a nice play by Richard with his back against the wall, needing to find something clever. But he spotted what I think should be a clear win for him. It's going to score 30 points on its own. That's almost as much as Drew is going to score. So this looks really good. I guess the only thing from Richard's perspective is, am I missing something big through this E? Is there any possibility that Drew is going to bingo on me? And I don't believe there is anything there. So it looks like Richard is about to steal this game back away from Drew, who both players played amazingly. I have to say, this was very impressive. Many, many plays in this game. Bingos back-to-back of Zippiest and Uranism. Drew with Zippiest, Richard with Uranism. Then we saw this beautiful sequence of Richard playing his H in this corner and Drew playing his F in the other corner. And that is going to be the play. That's going to be really, really tough for Drew to overcome this. Yeah, very impressive by Richard to come up with an endgame play that I think is going to get the job done for him here. Forcing a third game. So that's good news. Whether you are a Richard fan or a Drew fan, if you are rooting for Drew to close this out, that's not what you wanted to see, is Richard come up with an amazing endgame play. If you're rooting for Richard, you're thrilled that he just came up with that play. But if you're like me and you just want more Scrabble, this result is exactly what we want, right? We want 3 games of Scrabble. We want a 3-game finals. We don't want it to end after 2 games. So if you're one of those players like me, you just got what you wished. More Scrabble coming at you. So we shall see what Drew elects to do. He's using his clock. He's got some time. Don't forget the Will fans. Yes. Thank you for, I'm not sure, I guess there's some of you out there that are Will fans. Not everybody. There are some that were anti-Will. But most of you guys have been very nice. I really appreciate the kind words about the commentary. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and watching these great games of Scrabble with you all. So, yeah, Drew is in these situations when your opponent makes a play like that. Basically, if you're Drew, you're basically saying, well, I think that's tough, right? It's not really clear. And it looks like he's going to play Bake for 28, which is going to temporarily even the score of the game at 412 apiece. And I think I need to pay attention. I have to pay attention with to what the game score was. Does anybody have the game score from the first game? I guess we can get it from the players and figure out, because by rule, my rule was the player who wins their game by more points, it would go first in round 3 in the event of in the event that we need round 3. So we do need round 3, but the games were so close that I don't actually remember who 330 to 318, so a 12-point margin. Okay, well, it looks like this one is going to be higher. So by Richard squeaking it out by a little bit more than Drew. That sounds right, Austin. A 15-point spread. Okay, thank you, Phyllis. We're headed towards something very close to that here. But, yeah, a lot of good plays being, oh, man, basket. If Drew thinks about playing basket in that spot, is he going to think of it, right? Wow, what a play that would be for him to play basket with all of these overlaps in this spot here. And there it is. He's come up with it. He's come up with it. That's amazing. So this is, oh, wait, first Basker. Is he going to pick that R up? So this is a reasonable word. There we go. Okay, he's come up with it. 35 points. What a beautiful play. I mean, this is not going to win him the game. It's going to put him up temporarily. And then Richard is going to make his next play and win the game. He will definitely still have multiple places to play off his last 3 letters and win the game and play a silly word while he's at it, of course. But does that narrow the margin of victory enough that Drew will go first in the 3rd game? Okay, basket is the play, officially committed by Drew. So now Drew is up by 7 points, but he's got 4 points worth of tiles on the rack, and you're going to get 8 points here. Okay, so a 15-point margin of victory in game 1. Let's see where it ends up here. I think that means that Drew is supposed to go first in game 3. All right, I'm unmuting myself on the Zoom. Another incredible game between the two of you. A 5-point margin of victory, which is hard to believe, but I think Drew's play of basket cut the deficit enough that Drew's win was bigger than Richard's. Could one of you just look in the chat history right now, just real quick, and just confirm that? I just want to.
He won by 15 the last game.
Yeah, there it is. 15 to 5. Okay. All right. So we had agreed that you guys could feel free to take a break of a minute or two in between, unless you're ready to dive into round 3. You guys want to get up and stretch your legs for a minute?
I'll take a minute break.
All right. You got, yeah, sounds good. You guys get a couple minutes break, and I'll just man the fort until we start this next game. But that was really awesome. Yeah, Drew, I'm not sure if I muted you on the Zoom, so if you're wanting to say anything, make sure you unmute yourself. But those 2 games were absolutely amazing. So why don't you guys go ahead and take a break of a minute or 2, and yep, okay, thumbs up. I'll go ahead and mute Richard again. And that was pretty epic. I'm going to go to my commentary shot right now. Geez. Oh, hold on. We got to get my little curtain out there. So those were 2 amazing games. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with round 3 for all the marbles. literally a 15-point win for for Drew Morgan over Richard Spence in game 1, and then a 5-point win with his back against the wall. Richard Spence manages to prolong the match and send it to a deciding third game. Yeah, it's this has been really amazing. I'm gonna take a very, very quick break of my own of literally just a couple of minutes, and we're gonna be back with round 3 to decide the winner of the fall 2023 Scrabble Go community tournament. Okay, we are back. Players are back from break, and we are ready to launch in to our third and deciding game. And by virtue of his win by 15 points over Richard, Drew will go first in game three. Drew, start when ready. Somehow 15 points was enough. I'm going to mute myself now on the call. 15 points was somehow enough to secure the right to go first in game three. But of course, we've got a very full game ahead of us. And you can see Drew's rack. Not going to be the best rack to go first with here. 7 consonants and a mismatched. I'm not sure whether I wanted to say mismatched or mishmatch. I kind of mishmash. Okay, I'm going to move on now and try to say some different sounding words. He's going to exchange here. The question is, what is he going to keep? He might keep NG because those letters are synergistic if you can draw an I. He might keep a C if he likes the C. Most players, this is a very, very big. He decides to keep LNG. Ooh, and he's drawn nicely. He's drawn very nicely. So this is going to be a big swing here as we move it back over to Richard. Let me start the clocks. I actually should start this clock for a minute. So Horrell is going to be the play for Richard. I'm just running a couple seconds off the clock. So this is nice because Drew has a playable 7-letter word of wangled on his rack, but now for sure I expect Drew with that NG combination, he's going to be thinking about how can I make that blank an I? And he definitely has ways of doing that. So the blank in his mind, he's going to think to himself, can I make it an I? What letters do I have on the board to play through? And I really do expect him, if he doesn't see the 7-letter word wangled, which plays in this spot, I do expect him to play, okay, I thought he might play drawling, but instead he's going to play wrangled, which is also an excellent play on his part. And I'm looking at Richard's rack just to see, is there any chance that he is going to play anything through this? With a T, he would have been able to play Venosity, but there is no T available. So this is going to be kind of a tricky situation for him. I'm just curious to see if I can do better with this screen. Not really. Maybe this will do. Trying to do better with the screen that shows both of their cameras here, or both of their boards. I don't really think this is a great way of doing it, but I'm trying to be able to do this, and it doesn't look right, so we're going to forget about it. All right, so wrangled, that's something for me to do for next time. So wrangled is the bingo for Drew. So he starts out with a nice lead, and you can see he's drawn a lot of good stuff from the bag. He's drawn the Z. We really like the Z, that nice 10-point tile that's so much easier to use than the Q. The S, and then the CH combination even is also very good. So Drew has a lot of material on his rack that will set him up nicely to score well for several turns going forward. And on the other hand, Richard has a V and a Y, which isn't great, but he does have an S and some other good bingo tiles. So I think he is not feeling totally distraught here. I think he'll be able to find something. Ooh, it looks like he is getting ready to play viney, which is not a valid word. It's worth trying, but it's only veiny in that spot. So fish. Oh yeah, match tied 1-1. Thank you very much. That is what it is. Appreciate it. Thanks on Twitch. It is tied at 1 game apiece. All right. Richard is now maybe just considering playing just his Y by itself. That is a really interesting idea, just because with the remaining letters that he has, there are actually a bunch of words that will play. So, for example, if he were to just play his. Ooh. What was he going for there? I wonder. He's just thinking. Maybe he's just imagining. Oh man. Okay, so he is playing this. So the nice thing about that is that he could draw a bunch of things that actually fit. Evasion and Viros. There were a few things. I think and he has a bingo. Oh my god, but look at this. Wow. You guys pointed out. You guys pointed out on Twitch that Hazans and Coral is playable. It looks like Drew did not find that incredible bingo. But this is a great idea in its own right. If you don't find the bingo, Drew's play is so clever, setting up his Z in an enormous spot. So, of course, what I'm suggesting is that Drew actually had the ability to play a 7-letter word with his Z here. Instead, he didn't play that, but he has a really good follow-up option of just playing za in this spot for a boatload of points, and he set that play up for himself. Now, meanwhile, Richard just made an excellent bingo find of Olivines to take a narrow lead. He's retaken a narrow lead, but let me see. I got to catch it quick. Za is going to immediately deliver that lead back. Now, I wonder if Drew is going to try to find a way. Yeah, he wants to go all the way down and see if he can score. That would definitely be a reasonable use of his blank here, for sure. If he could come up, and he's going to try everything, because a play like that would just be so damaging. But za for 64... Now, this is a word that not everybody likes that this word is playable in Scrabble. Some people it rubs people the wrong way that you can go for a slice of za and it's playable in Scrabble, but man, it's useful in situations like this. And Drew drew the second blank. He was obviously experimenting with that blank to see if he could go all the way down, but now he's drawn Browner on his rack. And if he thinks, well, first of all, I think Browners may be good. I don't remember. But either way, Coral taking an E for Corral. Will he think to play in that spot? That's a big question. As it looks like Richard is going to play Niqab, another really nice word to know to play that Q more efficiently when you don't have a U to go with it. And he has done so. It obviously looks scary. Oh, and he set his X up. Wait a second. Did he have an X? Okay, there, and now, all right, I can't even keep up with this. This is so amazing. So we're going to see Drew play Browner. He has spotted the E hook on Coral, but Richard has set up an enormous place for himself to play his X next turn in this spot. He can even tack his E on if he wants to. I don't think creatrix is a valid word in this lexicon either, or he would potentially have that available as well. Oh my God. All right, there is just too much going on here. Great play by Drew. He spots the E hook on Coral to make Corral. It's back over to Richard. He's going to respond with a gigantic X play of his own. And then what? Will the scoring stop coming at such a feverish pace with Drew drawing good-looking bingo tiles, but I'm not sure if he has anything that plays. So let's see. So it's back to Richard now. Let me make sure that we're not missing anything on his part. So yeah, very, very impressive. Um, maybe I can. Okay, he's thinking about, do I play my E or not? So Nix does actually let you play an E at the end, but in Richard's shoes, keeping that E is really valuable for a number of reasons. I think that's a great job by him to keep the E. The E is such a good bingo tile. You're going to bingo a lot more with it than without it. And to that point, you can see immediately he sets up cremates, which is going to play to the S of olivines and who knows where else. And oh, Drew has a really nice idea. He spotted the possibility of playing his E with Nix. But is he going to find a better play than just Robe or something like that, which would be still pretty good? But he's looking, can I go even longer? Do I have a 7-letter word starting with BE? Is there anything better I can do? So it makes a lot of sense that he would take some time and think about this. Hold on. Rats. I really want to get this one thing working. Is this gonna do it? Yeah, there we go. This, no, it's not gonna do it. Okay, whatever. I'm trying to get the double board view so you can see when they play stuff on the board, but it's not working. So I will officially give up now. All right, Robe. This looks very good. It scores well, hits the triple. You get a bunch of extra points for the Nix hook, and you keep even decent bingo letters with that NG again. There, you could easily get an I to go with it. So Robe looks like a solid play for Drew. He's up by 40, and he's going to be up by almost 70 after this. he really wants to, yeah, begotten. Begone, begoner, begotten with one T. It would be great to have something that fits all the way, but it doesn't look like he has a play that fits. Robe is fine if that's the direction he goes with. I don't think he has a bingo anywhere. Question of, is cremator valid? Richard actually put that on the board. That's what I was trying to show you. He definitely was thinking about it, but it is not valid. So he is going to have to play cremates through to the S of olivines, which of course you're never going to turn down a bingo, but it isn't going to hit the double word score, so that saves a little bit of damage to Drew, and we'll see what he draws. All right. Ooh, he has good letters. There is a 7-letter word on there. I don't think it's likely to fit anywhere. Anyway, it's back to Richard now. And he's going to be looking around to see if he can come up with anything better than just cremates to the S of olivines. I'm not seeing it yet. You guys can tell me if you see anything on any of the platforms. But yeah, this is another, man, you're going to see the score narrow considerably. Richard already put cremates on the board, so he definitely sees it and is aware of it. Drew, meanwhile, does have the 7-letter word engrafts on his rack, which would play in this same spot to the S. He would be able to play this. But that spot is not going to stay open after cremates. And Drew just put graft on the board in the lower left corner of the with Gan as a hook. So he's going to play a nice word on his next move to retake the lead. And there is cremates to bring Richard to within 4 points. And he blocked frontage. So Drew just turned his rack into the valid bingo of frontage through the O of Browner. So cremates not only blocking and graphs to this spot, but also frontage, which would play through that O. So just in the nick of time. That's tough. That's a tough break because it's going to be really difficult to block both of these spots in one move without playing a bingo in Richard's spot there. So we'll see. All right. This is a very solid move. This word meaning a cigarette, of course. But yeah, this will score well, leaving Drew with very good tiles. But Richard is going to respond with fugue in the corner here. So fugue would be really strong. It looks like Drew is evaluating that move and maybe considering whether he wants to play in this spot to try to deny Richard access to that triple. Is he going to elect to, I don't know, that's tempting. Playing in this spot right here is very tempting. He would be keeping really nice letters for his next turn. Not sure which spot I favor here. In this particular instance, Drew, okay, he elects to play this, and Richard is going to immediately respond with fugue in the corner, which is an amazing play to get rid of those two U's on the rack at once. With the Q already having been played, there's no reason to worry about keeping the U's at all. It's great to dump those U's in this spot here, especially as you can see Richard just looked at his tracking, especially because he will, oh my God, Trodden for Drew. Holy crap. Trodden, if he sees it, could be a match winner, especially with that draw for Richard. Okay, so what I was saying with fugue is that those U's were the first U's to be played, so they're especially important to get rid of because you might draw more of them. But now this is a big one for Drew. The weird thing about this rack, with those D's on the rack, he has DD, Trodden. The thing is, though, with those letters, you're really thinking about ending your word in ED, not with EN. But you can see that if he thinks of Trodden, he will be able to play it here for a very, very big score. And Richard, with 6 consonants on his rack, depending on how you classify the Y, either way, total consonant overload. The only drawback to Trodden is that it makes really, really big overlaps in this spot, but Richard will struggle to do anything with them because, oh, is he getting ready to play? Hold on. What's coming down? Okay, trend. Let me clock him here. All right. So, right idea. He's got that. Oh, he sees the overlaps. That's the important thing. But is he going to think to himself, oh man, here's how I would get there in his shoes. I would think to myself, is there any way that I can hold my E for next turn? Because I really like the E. I don't want to use the E if I don't have to. And then maybe if he puts the O on the board in the spot where the E is, if he swaps out this E for an O, he might think of Trodden as his 7-letter word. And that would be huge. Yeah, the game clocks aren't real. That's me operating them as best I can. And let's see. Oh, where is he going to go? He's moving those tiles around. This would be a huge, huge swing. It would go a very long way to Drew's winning chances in this game. That being said, Richard does not have great options for his next turn with all of these consonants and no great way, especially to use his J. It's going to be difficult for him to use his J. This spot is a nice area to try to use some consonants for sure, but it's not going to be really easy to play your J there. if he can draw vowels and hold his J, maybe he would be able to play something with Jag going down. Oh, but all right. It looks like, oh, Drew is thinking about it. He may go back to his original trend. This looks really nice. Something that's extra nice about this, even though, of course, we would want to see him play Trodden here. Something that's nice about this, at least, is he keeps a D that he can use to play Aged here. But there are a lot of hooks that could go in this spot that are a little bit scary. All right, and that's the play. So a slight missed opportunity, but still a very creative use of hooks by Drew to score nicely with those low-scoring tiles. So this really puts Richard in a bind. This is really tough. He has no really productive way. He does have an S for Fs. He can go down here, but with no vowels, he has really, there's just no, he can almost play Sly, right? He can almost play Sly or something in that spot, but AG isn't a word. Also, Mary is not valid in this dictionary either, just for the record. So he's not quite there. Let me cut back to his POV. Yeah, and a T for Mart too, as Jelomokos points out. But yeah, this spot is just, it's just tough. It's tough for him to use. So the question, I suppose, looking at Drew's tiles, I'm not really sure that Drew can use the spot productively either. He has a couple, he has, I guess, just the T as a hook to Mar, but he doesn't really have any other good overlapping spot, plays in that spot. So I'm so curious to see which of the two of them are going to use this triple word score first. A lot of tension around this particular spot in this game. And Richard may be considering, do I just need to block it? He's trailing by 22 points. So it hurts. It hurts in his shoes to make such a play like that would leave him so many consonants and not even score that well. But he has to be very concerned about what's going to happen if he leaves the spot open to next turn. So I'm very curious to see how he handles this. This is a very difficult position. I frankly don't know what I would do here. I feel a little bit like you kind of just have to tip your cap and try to play somewhere else on the board and just say to your opponent, you caught me at a bad time. You could exchange. Richard may be thinking about doing exactly that. But yeah, I mean, yelled something like YELD through this spot at least scores decently, even though it does nothing to address this open spot. The nice thing about it, again, is that Drew isn't going to do anything. He's not going to be able to hit that spot very hard. So if somehow Richard can draw he could draw an E. If he plays yelled here, and if he draws a U or an E, he can play jest or just in this spot, which is going to score an enormous amount, right? Jest here will score so well. He's thinking about yelled for 26. Could he also draw, as you guys are suggesting, Slugbiker on Twitch suggesting, what if he draws OI or OU? Then he's going to have Joust. Ooh, he got so close. He drew two vowels. Not exactly the ones he needed, but now he will be able to play Jest in this spot. So incredibly, looks like we might see Drew just play Hop. He's got those two P's. Is he just going to go ahead and play Hop here? And that's going to leave that big spot open, and Richard will hit it hard immediately with Jest. That's going to vault him back into the lead. Even though Drew is down by only 4, he's considering scoring 27 here. Let me clock him. Okay, I forgot to clock him, so I'll let his clock run a little before I go back. But that play only puts him up by 23. And Richard's response of jest is going to score way higher than that. So after trailing for much of the game, a lot of really, really nice plays by Drew. He's at 360. He's played Wrangled, Browner, Za for 64. After all of that, Richard is still about to take the lead again with a 58-point overlapping play. Tremendous. Let's go back to Richard's clock now. We ran Drew's a bit. So now, after all that, it looks like Drew is going to be looking at, as he nods his head in appreciation of that play, he's now looking at a 35-point deficit. Amazing. So he's now in a situation that, as Richard notices, that if he were to just get an open E, he would play violons. Tremendous. But that there is no open E. So Drew's chances have gone from in pretty firm command of this game, but the combination of a couple moves in a row, right? Olivines, cremates brought Richard to within 4 points, and then the two of them traded 30-ish point scores for a bunch of turns in a row until that 58-point play just now by Richard puts him back in command of the game. That's really a masterclass in being patient, continuing to battle, and find a way to continue that scoring pressure. And that's what makes Richard a multi-time champion here. But Drew has battled so hard. I'm not counting him out just yet. There's still 14 tiles in the bag. That's a lot of time. Plenty of time for him to come up with some chances here. There is still this R open. I have every expectation that Richard, being such a clever defensive player, is going to try to obstruct this R. This definitely looks like the best chance for a bingo to go down for the remainder of this game. And it looks like he is considering playing Poutier, which would obstruct that R, but at least it scores a few points. And then you're just hoping for some help from the bag. There's still one more S. Maybe you can pull that and do something with it. That doesn't look ideal, though. Depending on he's going to maybe go down and just play something in the lower corner. Oh, Hope. That's nice to play in that spot. But the issue with these plays, 20 points, 24 points, leaving 3 vowels and 1 consonant. The problem is that Drew will still be trailing on the scoreboard after those plays, and Richard can make a very defensive play after that and not worry so much. If he just makes any play locking the board down somehow here, or maybe a parallel play, something like that, it's going to be tough for Drew because there's just no more space to bingo or really score points on this board. All right, so the play is opt in the corner, and oh no, to his leave of 3 vowels and 1 consonant, Drew has drawn 3 more vowels. Not what he needed to see there. Definitely needed more balance on his rack, and that's going to make it really, really difficult for Drew to score well on his next turn. Richard is up by 11 right now, but after his next play, depending on where he elects to play, he's going to be up by more, and Drew's going to struggle to get that score even. So we will see. Thank you to everybody watching along on all of our different platforms right now. We've got people on Facebook watching, Twitch, and YouTube. Hopefully the streams are functioning in all of those locations. Not 100% sure how many viewers there are in all these different places, but thank you to everybody for watching along and being here today. Richard might be getting ready to play Ovalo, which is the play that came to my mind as something really useful for him here. Something like that in this spot. I think he's getting ready to play it. He might be thinking, can I play something ending in IC, right? Something like Ovonic will play through this O ending in the C for more points, but you can't do that here because it opens up a place to play 7-letter words. Whereas if you play Ovolo going further out, this V obstructs that possibility. The maximum word length you can play would be a 5-letter word. So Richard is probably reasoning that I'm up by 11 right now. If I just make a good blocking play, the only thing I would be worried about in his shoes is, can I get hit with a big 5-letter play going across here? Oh boy, but he's doing something even crazier. Richard is potentially going to play no here. His reasoning for this play would be that he has the last O. There's only, I think he just looked in the tile bag. Let's count them. 1, 2. Yeah, no more O's. You can see it there. So what he's thinking is, if I play no here, that allows me to follow up with oh no. Big plays to the triple that only I can access. Very, very clever. Of course, the issue with that play... Ooh, did I lose Drew? Hold on. Pause. Something happened here with Drew's screen. Yeah, we can pause the game for a second. I paused the clocks. Something happened with Drew's blue stacks. All right. Give me 1 sec and see if I'm just going to cut to a quick standby and see if we can troubleshoot what's going on with Drew. Hold on just a sec. Okay, we are back with Drew's board. Sorry, everybody. The exciting conclusion will continue. I'm just going to hold off on clocking Drew until we prove that it's stable here, but I think it is. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much to Phyllis, Lillian, and Denise. I'm going to guess Phyllis must be a relation to our competitor here, Richard Spence, but Lillian and Denise, also competitors in this community tournament, the hardest one yet. You know, you guys must have felt it, that for whatever reason, maybe it was on me for picking such difficult players, but really, really challenging. I would like to try to fix that to make it a little more so that you're going up against more people of your skill level. So there could be different divisions of these things. For now, all 32 of you are lumped up in a big group. And with players like Richard and Drew in the mix, it's really tough. But I really appreciate everybody who competed and for your kind words about my commentary. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to do these events. So anyway, to finish the point about no, this is just such a nice idea by recognition by Richard of setting himself up with a hook that only he controls. And he is sitting on that last O, and he now has a place where I'm not even sure what he will opt to play. Something like, I'm not sure if he can even use the K and the V along with the O, but even something like kilo here is going to be very, very difficult for Drew to productively underlap. That K does not, KE is not a valid word, so it really cuts off a lot of the bingo potential there. And it looks like Drew might, for the second time in 3 games, as I'll start his clock now, for the second time in 3 games, he's considering playing EAU with that vowel overload. This looks like a nice idea on his part, if only to obstruct how much damage that Richard can do with the Ono hook. So clearly, Drew is recognizing the threat of this hook. By playing this word here, he makes it a lot tougher to go all the way through with an Ono play. So I think that makes some sense. Of course, the problem with it is that you still leave IIU with a D on your rack for the next turn, which is just, the prospects for those letters are so grim. It's going to be difficult to see his next move going that much better. Bellman on Twitch, hardly anything is worse than 2 I's and 2 U's at the same time. Yes, no, we've all, if you play enough Scrabble, we've all been there. It's a great point. The I's in particular, nobody likes the U's unless they're paired with a Q. The U's are just the weakest of the vowels by far, but the I's are just so damaging when they are duplicated. A single I on your rack is often excellent when paired with other good mixes of vowels and consonants, but 2 of them together is just rough. Your options quickly diminish with those I's, so it's very, very important when you have an I on your rack to assess what is the chance that I will draw another one of these, and how desperately do I need to get rid of this I. So Drew may be going back to his original choice of audio. The thing about that, no, he's deciding O is what he wants to play. All right, he has decided on that. He clicks submit. Seems reasonable. Of course, unbeknownst to him, Richard doesn't really have a great play that would have gone all the way through making this hook. He really only has a couple moves. He's looking at his tracking right now, just trying to assess. I think what he's assessing is there any chance that if I play something up here with Ono, is there any chance that Drew can play a 7-letter bingo here? Or is there a chance that he'll have an 8-letter word ending in R? And if he's satisfied that he can't see anything like that, and you can see Drew has noticed that if only he had an N to play through, he would be able to play Mutinied. He has it lined up on his rack. But I do think something like Kilo in Richard's shoes here is going to be very effective. It's going to be very difficult for Drew to reach a big underlap that hits the double word score with a K right here. That's not that easy to end words in A or I. And I think he's going to be in pretty good shape. Also note that EAU, you could put a B after it, except both of the B's have already been played, so that's not a threat either. So this is looking pretty good for Richard here. However, Drew did draw 2 consonants, so that's going to help him to at least have some hope from his POV that he can somehow come up with something here. Wow, this has been one heck of a series, everybody. Yeah, thanks, Randy. Appreciate the kind words. And Shannon, another one of our competitors. Look at that. He's considering playing Rivage. This would be a really interesting play because Richard would basically be deferring his big play to the O, making Ono to a future turn. This is an interesting choice. He's going to play Rivages there. I think I would probably play Kilo here unless I look in the pool, and I haven't looked as closely as Richard probably is. But if I look in the unseen pool, yeah, it could be an issue with the eyes. He might not want to draw that many eyes. But either way, that's a good score, 23. And he's managed to preserve his possibility of playing to Ono for the future, for when maybe he feels more comfortable doing that. So there are only 3 tiles left in the bag. You see that now with Drew checking his tracking. So he's got to be worried because he has 2 eyes on his rack, but he still can see a bunch of the eyes in the unseen pool in the tile bag. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 eyes on the board. 2 of them are on his rack. So 3 of them are still unseen. So with 2 of them on his rack and 3 of them still waiting to be drawn, those eyes are like, gotta try. Like, he has to be thinking, like, how can I get rid of some of these? So Robed will score nicely, but I think he's going to get himself into severe trouble if he draws 1 or 2 eyes from the bag after a play like that. So this is tough. I don't really have a great suggestion of what he should be playing here. It's just one of those situations where it might just be a little bit too late. I don't really see a great play that gets eyes off of his rack, and he's going to draw a bunch more if he decides to play Robed and Axe here. And that is the play that he makes. So back over to Richard. I'll stop his clock a sec. Let's see what he drew. There they are. Well, no, 1. There's 1. He drew 1 of the eyes. So, yeah, you can just see Drew is so close on the scoreboard, but he is going to struggle as Richard has set up doe-like on his rack, which is a perfectly reasonable looking word. Unfortunately, it's not valid and it doesn't play anywhere, but that's fine. Richard is still holding this O. And now it's going to be basically extremely difficult. Not impossible. It might be possible to place something underneath here that blocks Ono if you are Drew. But this spot is nearly impossible to block. And it looks like Richard is going to cash it now and play Kilo with confidence that with such poor letters unseen to him in the tile bag, that there just isn't really anything that Drew can have that will damage him here. That looks like it's going to be very, very strong. I think Richard is going to draw the last eye out of the bag, so we'll have to see what options he has with it. But by being patient and cashing this spot now, when he knows for absolute sure that Drew is not going to hit him with anything as an overlap, that was very nice. Oh, he drew an E. Okay, so sorry for I miscalculated that somehow, but that's even better because Richard is getting set to play Eider in this spot. Oh, he did draw I. Right. He had DEE. Sorry. Right. Thank you, Jelamokas. So Eider to this R and Dewier through the W and R. 2 outplays are possible here for Richard. And he's going to spot one of the 2 of those for sure. And that is very likely to be the final move of the game and of the series, as it looks like Richard is going to complete an amazing comeback in the series. Drew winning the first game, and then Richard trailing in the second game, but managing to battle back and win by 5 points in game 2, and even fend off an incredible surge by Drew in this game, who played Wrangled, Browner, Za, and is going to finish with an extremely good score but Richard still too much. Some really, really impressive plays by him here. And Drew is basically saying, yeah, I can't, with these letters, I can't make that full comeback. And instead, it's going to be Richard's win here. All he has to do now, he can play EIDE in this spot if he so chooses, and that is what he's going to do. Looks like a solid play by him here. And that is going to do it for this game and for the series. Amazing. What a series. Richard wins 2-1. Incredible. What an effort. I'm going to unmute myself now on the Zoom call as our match is complete. And yeah, Drew, I don't know if you're able to unmute, but that was an incredible series by the two of you. I don't know where this ranks in my like best finals ever, but it's got to be up there. Incredible level of play by both of you in the match. Richard, this was I think this is your third win, and I have to believe
So,
this was the toughest of the three so far, where
oh
you
yeah.
were down a game and managed to come back in game two and then game three as well. What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you were down a game early on?
Yeah, I think this was actually the probably the toughest tournament I've played in, like out of the community tournaments, because um I mean going back to the previous rounds, you see like most like all the rounds I played in are very close. So yeah, I think it just shows to the amount of skill that is out there. Um
For sure. And it was really, really impressive seeing the two of you battle here. Drew is still working on getting unmuted, so it would be great. But it's okay if there's any tech issue there. But either way, that last play of no was incredible recognition on your part, setting up that last hook that you ended up cashing for that kind of decisive score in the end game. Take us through your thought process on that turn. I was so impressed.
yeah, like actually after playing no, I was not confident just because if he had the D or the M, you can block it with nod or nom. But I figured no at least puts the pressure on him to react to it because I have the last O after opt.
Yeah, for sure.
And then also because ABO was removed, I was pretty safe that he couldn't block there.
Yes, very difficult to block that setup productively.
Oh,
I mean, it's possible to block maybe,
mm,
but oop, oh, there we go. We got
oh,
audio from
okay.
Drew, I think.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Drew,
Yeah, well, good games.
commiserations. That was amazing. You
Thank you.
played awesome. There were just so many moments. The sequence, I don't know what you guys were thinking about the sequence where Richard bingos with Lustard, and then Drew, you had the Q which
Mm,
you played, and then those two gigantic scoring plays were just electric to see those go down one
oh,
after the other. Drew,
I
when did you see did you consider hooks of Lustard immediately, or did you only see it on that turn when you played Hoof?
No, I was so happy. I'm like, just keep the F. Just keep that F right there because I saw the other F was gone with five. I had already played it. So,
mm,
yeah, I was just like, hold on, hold on. And when hoof came about, I was like super pleased
yeah,
That was
that it worked.
epic.
I had the B at that turn, right?
I saw
Oh,
you
did
put
you?
it. Yeah, Richard had the B, and
Mustard.
he put it on the board as if to say, "I can play my H for 60 points and save this B for next turn." But Drew got there first with that gigantic hoof play, which was so impressive. So anyway, that was an epic finals. Congratulations to you both for being finalists in
Thank you.
what I have to assume is the toughest community tournament to date. But yeah, I don't know. Drew, any final thoughts about facing Richard before we give Richard the last word?
No, I am super pleased to have taken a game off Richard. That's the first time ever. So I will, this is my commiserations. I'm going to hold on to that real hard and be like, it wasn't a total like nightmare, but
Not at
yeah,
all.
no, excellent play, Richard. It was the O. yeah, that non up there, and I knew I'm like, oh, he must have the O. I'm like, there's what do I do? What do I do? And then just U's and I's and T's. And what are you gonna do?
Yeah, the tiles just weren't there at the very end, but you played awesome, Drew. And Richard, congratulations. Another win for you in the finals. Any
Yeah,
parting thoughts from you before we call it a stream?
yeah, this was a very fun tournament, and yeah, very neck and neck that finals. So played well.
It sure was. People are chiming in on Facebook, Twitch, everywhere there is to watch this, saying that the games were incredible, that you guys treated us to an amazing show. I couldn't agree more with that. So, with that, I thank the both of you and to all of our competitors in the community tournament. I'm going to get all of your rewards out to you very soon. And I'm going to mute the two of you as we head to our outro here. So that does it for another successful community tournament, an epic finals, probably the best one that we've had so far. And yeah, what a treat to watch these two play. Congratulations to Drew Morgan and especially to Richard Spence for his third win. I think he's got one win in all 3 years we've been doing this, and it really is a treat to watch him play. So, with that, thanks everybody. Appreciate you all for watching. And that's going to do it for our stream. And for those of you who have been curious, how do I get involved with these events? Make sure that, first of all, you're playing a lot of Scrabble Go. We have the sign up pop up in the game when it's time to do a new tournament. But also, you can follow us on Facebook on our Scrabble Go main page, as well as our community group, where I recognize a lot of you on Facebook chatting. So look for those sign up notifications, and maybe you will get a chance to play in one of these finals at some point soon. All right, thanks everybody. Until we see you again,